qualitative research, that is very essential. So along with that, then we're going to move to some hands-on exercises also from side to side. And in case you people are having some proposals in your mind and you want to ask something, you're having some doubts regarding that. So you are most welcome to kindly come forward and discuss that. And I think with that, we can take it forward and we'll start with our session today. Right? And in case anything has been there, so you can just unmute yourself or you can just put your questions, you can say in the chat window. So I'm just sharing my screen and let me know if it is visible. So is it visible to everyone? I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kindly make it
Okay.
on the slide so mode, sir, if possible.
Yeah, great. So, sir,
Yeah.
the participants can ask questions or they can only put questions in their chat window.
Yeah, so that will be the better because we have a lot of
Right.
participants. If they will ask, their voices,
Done, done, done. Sure, sir, sure.
so
Absolutely.
chatting will be better. And after completion of this session, we will, unmute themselves. They can unmute. They can ask.
Done, done, done. That would
In
be
the
great.
meanwhile, they can write their queries in the chat box.
Great. Done. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, how AI is actually driving, you can say, the research, especially when we talk about the qualitative research in today's time, and how we can use AI, especially for the qualitative data analysis. So I will be giving, you can say, some exercises also. I will be giving you certain prompts also that how you can take it forward. So the agenda for this today's session will be that introduction to qualitative research. Then what is the definition and the utility of qual research? Why we are conducting it? What is the basic differences? What are the various research designs? And what is phenomenology? And this is a particular type, you can say, of qualitative research, right? Which I largely, you can say, specialize in. So I'll a little bit putting more focus on it. And then employing IP and qualitative research. Now, first of all, whenever we are doing any kind of a research, so there is something in our mind that we want to do, we want to understand something, we want to gain new insights and some new knowledge, you can say, about certain phenomena and whatever is happening all around us. Let's take one recent example. So we had this Operation Sindoor, right? So there might be lot many questions at times that, okay, why this operation was conducted, why it was not conducted earlier. So lot many things happen, right? So there is a lot of phenomena that we can experience all around us. All right. Why we are talking about, for example, Amrit Kal? Why PM is talking about year 2047, Viksit Bharat and all that? Why all of a sudden so many changes we can see in the political landscape, for example? Okay. So we are now having, for example, we are talking about academics. So if we are talking about national education policy, so what NEP is has to offer? So what will be the impact of NEP, for example, you can say on academicians, on the various stakeholders? So there are a lot many questions. Why such things are happening? What next? When this happened, what happened, why it happened. So there are certain questions that starts with why, and these questions basically motivates us to conduct research, right? So whether it's a qual research, whether it's a quantitative research, it's all about, you can say, the inquiring mindset that basically drives us to ask questions, and to answer those questions we conduct research. So when I talk about a research, it's made up of two words, re and search. That means everything is available, so there are questions in our mind, so we have to just do our search, or you can say we have to just do the research so that we can get the answers to the questions that we're having in our mind. And that is why the research help us to unfold, you can say, lot many things that we have in our minds. Now moving ahead, so moving ahead, so types of research when you talk about, so who conducts the research? That's the first thing, right? So generally we used to talk about the primary research and the secondary research. You all have done that because I hope many of you are doctorates all already and might be many researchers. So largely when I'm collecting, you can say the primary data, you can say from the participant, I'm analyzing it, you can say. So that is largely, you can say, the primary research which I'm conducting. right? And then the secondary, that means already data is available. Like generally the PhDs, or you can say the PhDs, or you can say the research which is conducted, you can say especially in the finance area, especially if I want to understand the trends of the stock markets, right? So there I want to, you can say already data is existing. So historical data has been there. I want to run my analysis and then I want to understand and gain insights out of it. So primary research and the secondary research have been there. Then two types of data has been collected. One, which is numerical in nature, you can say. So largely you all know that when we are conducting any research, so generally we used to make a questionnaire, right? And in a questionnaire, so there are certain, you can say, questions have been asked, especially on the Likert scale, on scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 7, depending on what kind of scale you are using, right? Or a dichotomous scale you are using, yes, no, right? Like what is the gender, for example. So these are different kind of questions. So demographic profile have been there, then a certain scales, whatever the kind of work you are doing. If you are doing some kind of a research in the science related certain things, so in that, largely what we are doing, so we are conducting certain kind of experiments, right? So quantitative means simply that the numerical data, you can say, when we are conducting the data and we just want the respondent to respond on the given particular questionnaire, you can say on a scale, on a particular scale, maybe on 1 to 5, for example, right? So now I'm having, you can say, so people have responded. Now I'm having a proper Excel sheet or data sheet prepared, and then I used to apply the appropriate, you can say, the statistical test so that I can analyze the data and then I can just move ahead, right? Second is a qualitative research. So largely you can say I'm making a questionnaire, but largely it is a kind of a schedule, right? Now I am having a certain guidelines, you can say, which help me to drive my interview, you can say, or my interaction, you can say, with the respondent, so that I can get some deeper insights. And that is why I'm going for a qualitative research or the call research. Now, call research, you can say, is not largely quantitative. We cannot quantify it. And so that's, and the other things that are related to it we're going to discuss. Now, why I am doing qualitative research and why, what is the need for doing that? So somewhere, as a researcher, my study is largely focused to understand, you can say, the human behavior. That's first thing. Then I want to understand the perspectives. Now, for example, I talked about Operation Sindoor. Now, if you go on X, you go on LinkedIn, on various other platforms like YouTube and other social media platforms, so you will going to see that okay, people are having a different kind of perspective regarding the war. That okay, Operation Sindoor was very successful. India has done a good job, but some people are neutral. Some people were not very, you can say, in favor of Operation Sindoor and like that, right? So we have different kind of people with different perspective. So when I'm conducting the call research, somewhere I want to understand the human behavior, that why people behave in a certain way. I want to understand their perspectives. I want to understand their experiences. And somewhere, how I am doing that? I am doing that by using non-numerical data, because there are lot many insights. Because when you're giving a questionnaire, you can say to a person, at times they don't even read it properly, or if they are reading it, they just pick their, you can say, choices, and they put a particular number, they pick a particular, you can say, response, and they just finish it and just give it. There is no space. So whatever, so you're giving them not any choice. You're only saying that okay, this is 1 to 5 a scale, you have to choose one. But in qualitative research, I'm not bounding them by that. They're free to speak their mind, whatever they are feeling, whatever they're experiencing, what are the kind of perspectives they're having, and the kind of behavioral change that they're having. So that is non-numerical data that we first have to understand as a researcher, especially when we are doing the call research. Now, why I am doing this type of scientific research? That's there are certain, you can say, research which consists of an investigation. That first thing is seeks answers to a question. I want to understand certain phenomena, which you can say is not possible to get through quantitative research. Now, I want to understand systematically, use a predefined set of procedures to understand a question. That means you can say it is a procedure. There's a predefined set of procedures that we generally used to follow to conduct a research. Then I have to collect an evidence. The evidence could be that, okay, I am going, I'm talking to the people, I want to understand that, okay, what is happening. Now, I want to produce findings that were not determined in advance. So that means whatever the research I'm conducting, I'm not knowing that, okay, what will be my results, what will be the findings. And moreover, whatever the findings I am getting, so whatever the findings that have been produced, that are applicable beyond the immediate boundaries of the study. So generally it happens that I am conducting, you can say, a particular research for a certain things, but apart from that, there are a lot many other learnings that also happens when I am conducting a particular research. So this is what largely when we talk about the call research is a scientific research very well. Now, when we say as a definition part, so you can say it's a process of naturalistic inquiry that help us, you can say, that seeks to an in-depth understanding of social phenomena. Now, why people react in a certain way? Why people do certain things in a certain manner only? Right? Why people are having certain kind of rituals. Now, this is a very complex phenomena. We can't understand it just like that, right? So somewhere to understand, you can say the deep fabric of the culture, for example, I want to understand, you can say the mindset. It is not possible to understand, especially if I'm not doing a qual research. So somewhere the qualitative research helps me in a natural, is a naturalistic inquiry, you can say, which help me understanding the social phenomena within the natural setting. Now, what is a utility? Utility is very simple. I can understand, you can say, special, you can say, traits of particular cultures. So I can get a culture specific information that, okay, what kind of value system people are having, what kind of opinion they are having, what kind of behavior they are having, and the social context of a particular population. Now, if I ask in a certain way, or if I say certain things, can we say that, okay, Chinese are similar to Indians? No. Chinese are very different from Indians. Indians are very different from Americans, and so on. So if we compare, you can say one culture or one particular population to another, there are a lot many differences, especially when I talk about these particular traits, that is values, opinions, and behaviors. So if I really want to understand and deep dive into all these certain things, definitely I am going and taking help of, you can say, the qualitative research, because the quantitative research fails to give me the answers to all these particular things. Because in the quantitative research, there is a certain set of responses that you are getting. So you can't do it. That is a cause and effect relationship that, okay, people have said this, and that is why this thing is happening. But what is a deep diving level into it? Why? This why question will be answered with the help of qual research. Now, moving ahead, why qualitative research? So whenever we are employing qualitative research, so it is helping me to provide complex textual description of how people experience a given research issue. Now, my experience would be different from yours, and your you can say experience might be different from mine. So definitely, some people might be having, okay, qualitative research is of no use. You took interview of some people and this and that. But is that simple? So people are having a different kind of mindset about certain things, about certain event, about certain people, about certain objects. So we all are having a different kind of descriptions in our mind, our experiences. So somewhere to understand that complex textual description, qualitative research helped me understanding in a given research issue. Now, for example, I do largely work on whistleblowing phenomena. So recently, my work got published on whistleblowing intention of nurses, for example. Now, already so many things have happened in the West. But when I talk particularly about the nurses in India, right, I want to understand their whistleblowing behavior. So we have already a lot of literature that is coming from the West. But is the same kind of phenomena been applicable? The phenomena which is applicable in US, is it applicable to India also? That is a question to ponder upon. So it gives me information about the human side of an issue, that what people feels, right? Often contradictory behaviors, you can say, we get to know, we understand the belief system, we are able to understand the opinions, emotions, and the relationship of individuals. Like for example, one of the findings in my research was that, okay, I would like to blow the whistle. For example, I would like to raise my voice against the wrongdoing that is happening at my workplace in case there is a retaliation against me. That means the feeling of revenge was there, and that is why the nurses would like to go for a whistleblowing. Now, this is something strange. That means to take a particular revenge, you might be you are wanting to, you can say, blow the whistle. But in natural, if something is naturally going wrong, will you like to blow the whistle? So these are certain things that I have to understand, that what drives their behavior to act in a certain way, why people behave in a certain manner. Recently, I have also finded one more research, that is a work life, you can say the experiences of women regarding work-life balance, especially during the COVID era. Now, there are a lot many other things. Work-life balance is nothing new, but definitely when you talk about the COVID-19, that was something unique because that has never been experienced prior, or you can say earlier. So I would like to understand, was there any kind of change you can say in the routine, or you can say in the system? All right. So somewhere I want to understand the phenomena, that okay, what largely the people used to say, and what is their understanding, what kind of experience they had. So for some people, the experiences were fantastic during COVID. They got lot of time, but for some people it was not that great. So that means situation is same, or you can say the event is same, but the experiences are very, very different. So definitely I try to understand that, and that is why I'm understanding, you can say, yeah, I will take, you can say, the results. I will share the findings definitely with all of you. So, so I am understanding the human side, that why they behave in a certain manner. Moreover, when I'm using along with, so definitely now I would like to move towards more mixed methodology, where I'm using both quantitative methods and the qualitative research, you can say, which is now gaining lot of, you can say, rigor and lot of popularity. Where what I can do is I can interpret and I can better understand, you can say, the complex reality of a given situation and the implication side of the quantitative data, right? Because largely when I talk about the quantitative, is largely causal data, you can say cause and effect relationship. I want to understand that okay, if job satisfaction is there, for example, people would like to stay, or their commitment levels are higher, for example. But in case it can be vice versa. But what kind of you can say, what are the things in the job satisfaction itself that is actually bugging the people? So there are the, you can say, various instances we have seen that people are paid handsomely, everything is fantastic, but still people are leaving their jobs. And that is why we this phenomena of quiet quitting came, you can say, forward. So there are a lot many things that happens, and somewhat you can say the qualitative is the first thing that we need to do. So then we can move to the second part, that is the quantitative, because we need to generalize that. Now, what is the type of research? So qualitative generally answers why question, that is the purpose. And the quantitative is largely how many questions have been there. Observation, symbol, word. That is the type of a data that is non-numerical. Second is I am using in quantitative number and statistical results. Moreover, if I talk about my approach, so largely it is observation, it is interpretation, and where I'm talking the quantitative is largely about measuring the certain things and putting, you can say, a lot of statistical test into it. And then analysis is grouping of the common data, or you can say I'm not going for any statistical analysis, but largely I'm going for a thematic analysis, you can say, or you can say identifying, you can say, the common themes, you can say. And but while in the quantitative, we are going largely for the statistical analysis. And with the help of that, we try to understand, you can say, the relationship between independent and the dependent variables, or you can say the mediation or the moderation or moderating variables, and try to make a sense out of it and try to generalize, you can say, on the larger population. Because because the numbers matters a lot, you can say, especially in the quantitative. Now, when I talk about the conceptual and the qualitative conceptual part, so it is concerned with understanding the human behavior, as I talked earlier. It is concerned with discovering, you can see, the facts about the social phenomena. That okay, how many people have a similar kind of a feeling about a certain phenomena. All right. So, assuming a dynamic and a negotiated reality, see, your reality is different from mine. My reality is different from yours. So, But while when I'm talking about the quantitative, it assumes a fixed and measurable reality. That, okay, this is a particular construct. I'm having this particular context in this particular context. And that is why, especially when you talk about the research, so I'm saying, okay, data was collected from so and so date, and it is applicable to so and so population. So definitely at times it happens, and that is why in limitation at times we put that, okay, in case the limitation is that it has been carried out in a certain geographical location. So the findings may not be completely, you can say, relevant, you can say, to the other populations. So you have to again carry out the research. So assumes a fixed and measurable reality. Methodological, data collected through participant observation and largely with the help of interviews. Data collected through questionnaires. Data are analyzed by themes from the description by informants. So for example, I'm conducting, you can say, an interview. And with the help of the interview, then I'm trying to, you can say, make a sense out of it. So data are analyzed using numerical comparison and statistical inferences, especially when we talk about the quantitative approach. While if we talk about the qualitative, data reporting the language of the informant. So I'm not diluting, you can say, the quotes of the researchers. So why I'm doing that? So I am, for example, you are having a data sheet, for example, for your data analysis. But when I'm talking about the qualitative research, the verbatims, you can say, of the people, they are actually acting, you can say, as a supporting, you can say, phenomena in my research. The verbatims. Okay, you are saying that, okay, this thing is happening. So what are the, you can say, find, how you can say that? You can say the verbatims act as, you can say, as a testimony that whatever the findings we had from our qualitative researchers. Now, this is again the same thing. So I am just moving ahead. So reality is single. It can be broken down in part study. That is about the assumptions, you can say. Reality is multiple. It can only be studied holistically. That is about the qualitative research. So when you talk about the role of the researcher, in the qualitative research, the role of the researcher is that whatever his researches are interdependent. Because the researcher role is to become part of what is being studied. At times, you become very much party to it. Like, for example, I want to study a particular tribe. I want to understand the culture of a particular, you can say, culture or a particular natives. So researcher does not intervene. They are very separate. The purpose is to contextualize and to interpret. So largely it is depends on your interpretation, how you're interpreting it. The research questions, so largely we don't have hypothesis, you can say, as such in the qualitative research, but largely we are, you can say, taking, you can say, research questions that is driving, you can say, the organizers can please just have a look at the chat window, please, and participants are requested to just close their video, please. So the research design also keeps on evolving over time. Once the data is gathered, the researchers looks for patterns. So what are the common patterns? And then from that, we used to identify, you can say, the themes have been there. The study can involve a very long time commitment because the qualitative research is not like that you have started today and it is going to end in a month or so. No, it's not like that. At times it takes a longer time. Might be you are planning for something, but something doesn't happen, and you have to visit the same participant once, twice, thrice, at times even more, just to understand it, okay, why people are behaving in a certain manner. Because at times, in the very first meeting, if you are going for an interview, do you really think that people will be very comfortable with you? That, okay, ask the questions and I will give you the whatever you want to listen. It never happens like that. Because before you start collecting the data, it becomes very essential that the trust building exercise has been there. Because until unless there is a trust, definitely you can say the people will definitely not going to share their real picture with you, whatever they actually feels, right? Now, for example, there's a question for everyone. If you are conducting a research on domestic violence, for example, and you want to understand it, okay, domestic violence against males. Now you tell me how many males will going to tell you that, okay, we are the victims of domestic violence. Answer is very clear. You will not going to find such people, first of all, very easily. That's one thing. Second, right? So very few, yes, absolutely. Very few and very less will be there, correct? So, but still, so what you can do? You can, but still, so can we say that, okay, there is no domestic violence against men? We can't say that because actually it has been there. So it has been there. So we have to carefully, you can say, select my participant, because if you know somebody, right? So if you know somebody and then you can say with the help of some of your friends and all that, something is happening. So first of all, when you want to ask something about from a person, the trust has to be there, and he would like to ensure that you will not going to disclose this information to anyone. So this is an interpretative analysis of the data, and the categorization and the descriptive language is being used. So largely when I talk about the qualitative research is largely exploratory in nature. But when I talk about, you can say the quantitative is largely descriptive and the mix of that, right? Now moving ahead. Now these are certain approaches in the qualitative research. Now, for example, ethnography has been there, phenomenology has been there, grounded theory has been there, or you can say the case study is there, and action research has been there. And then these are the theoretical framework for qualitative research, especially if we talk about the health research, because largely that has started from there. So social ecological model is in there, intersectionality has been there, participatory action research has been there. So let me start with the action research. What action research is all about? It is largely about that, okay, there is a problem and I want to find an immediate solution to that. So action research is largely has been conducted, you can say, in the labs, you can say in the corporate world, that, okay, there is a problem, you can say in the organization, I want to fix it ASAP. So I am conducting a research that, okay, why employee engagement is going down. So I want to conduct that research, right? And then what I'm doing, I want to fix it and I want to have a solution so that I can fix that problem ASAP, right? Case study has been there. So largely what is case study? That, okay, there's an organization. I want to study that in depth. All right. It can be an organization, it can be an individual, it can be an event, right? Depends that what kind of case study you are doing. So I will be sharing the examples of everything. Then there's a grounded theory. Now the grounded theory is that largely that how theories evolve. So theories are largely evolved with the help of grounded theory. That means you have already collected or you are conducting the qualitative research. Now from that research, there are certain themes that are emerging, and then a certain new theory is evolving. That is what the grounded theory is all about. I will discuss a little bit about it. And then the ethnography. If I really want to understand, you can say, about a particular community, I want to understand about a particular culture. So definitely I want to understand their ethnicity, that, okay, what kind of rituals they're having, why they behave in a certain manner, what kind of, you can say, you can say the festivals they celebrate, the kind of, you can say, the rituals they follow. So what is the reason for that? Largely when I talk about the techniques, you can say it is largely purposive, because keeping my research questions in my mind. So I have to, like, you can say, pick up my methodology. So definitely random sampling will never be successful in this kind of research. Second is purposive. So you should understand what is the purpose of your research, keeping that in mind. So you are selecting, you can say, the right respondent who will go to fit, you can say, for your research. So that is a purposive, or you can say the judgmental sampling that will work. Then snowball sampling, that means, for example, I want to conduct a research on drug addicts, for example. Will you going to get access to the drug addicts easily? The question is very simple, no. So, but at times, but you might be knowing some people who know such people. So you are getting, you can say, reference, and from then it keeps on moving. So snowball, right? With the help of references only, I'm able to reach to the participants. Then convenience sampling, right? Then theoretical sampling has been also been there, and the maximum variation sampling. So largely when I talk about it, all depends the what kind of research you are doing, right? And on the basis of that, then we used to move ahead and conducting a particular study. Now, moving ahead, what are the data collection methods? The first is in-depth interviews. So largely, when I talk about the in-depth interviews, could be focus group. So in focus group, I can have 8 to 10 people. At the same time, I am asking the question, and then different participants, they are participating, they are giving their responses, right? So that is a focus group. So you're having a larger number of participants at once, and you have to, you can say, note down their responses. Now it is a little difficult because in this particular method, you need at least 3 to 4 people who can respond. You can note down the responses, because for the single respondent, it really becomes difficult, or at least you can record it. So if you're recording it, definitely it will be a much easier task in case if the people agree. So if you can record it, that would be the best thing. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Then observation. So at times I'm not asking direct questions, but I'm just observing it. Okay, what is the phenomena, how people are behaving, how they behave in a certain manner. So observation. Then the document analysis, already the data is available. All right. So I'm having, for example, the tweets have been there. And from the tweets, or you can say the public information which is available. Now I want to understand that, okay, what are the sentiments of the people? Why people are behaving in certain manner? Why they are commenting in a such a certain way? At times they're positive comments, at times they're neutral. So I want to understand. So what I can do, I can just take down those particular tweets, or you can say certain things, right? So in that particular aspect, what I can do, I can analyze it. I can identify the common themes, you can say, into it, and then I can move ahead. So document analysis has been there, that you can say documentaries have been there, some stories have been there. What are the, you can say, that is there. For example, the judgments have been given in the courts. So the judgment that are given in the courts, we can analyze it, and then we can understand the phenomena, that okay, why such kind of judgments have been given and what is the reason for that. Then participatory methods are also been there. All right. So participatory methods have been there, where you can say the interviewer is also been there. All right. And then also I'll come to, you can say, the data analysis techniques. All right, one by one. Then I'm coming to the participatory methods have been there, where you can say the researcher or the participants have been there, and they're very much involved into it. Like I'll give you an example. I went to test, you can say, for a workshop on qualitative many years ago. So their time there was a book chapter. So there was a study that was conducting on the AIDS patient caregivers. The the study was not on the patients, you can say, who were suffering from AIDS, but actually on the caregivers who were giving, you can say, care to the AIDS patient. Now that was a study that was conducted, you can say, for at least 3 to 4 years. Under that, you can say, in many cases, when the study was started, patients were alive. In many cases, the deaths were there, and in that, you can say, the researcher has mentioned that even I have attended the funerals of many participants. Participant in the sense, that means the many patients, and I have seen, you can say, the journey of the participant, who were the past participants, caregivers. That okay, what kind of emotional journey, you can say, emotional experiences they are having, what was their thought process, what were their mindset, what kind of behavioral things that they have done, right? So these are certain things that we have to look at. So if I try, I can share the document with you so that you can just understand it. And the next is now thematic. Now these are certain things. The content analysis has been done. That means document is already been there. So you're just analyzing the content and you're trying to identify the common themes, you can say. So when I will going to come to the coding technique, so there I will going to tell you that how coding has been done with the help of data. And I will also ask, you can say, to the people also, that how coding has been done from, you can say, the transcript which have been there. Then thematic analysis. So once the interviews have been done, you are having your data with you. So then we try to, so generally it happens that when you're conducting interviews, most of the themes are already clear in your mind. But when there are 3 to 4 researchers and doing the similar kind of study, so what is generally happen? So what is generally happens over there? Uh, so they, you can say, code differently. So at times they identify their own themes, and once they have identified their themes, then they match with each other, and then they have a lot of discussion. Then they come to the final themes, you can say. So there are 1 round, 2 round, 3 rounds, and then they come to the final selected themes, you can say, based on the data analysis. So coding has been done at times separately, right? So content analysis has largely been done. And then when you talk about uh, wait, yeah. So theoretical sampling, when we talk about largely, there's a question, so I will come to that particular part. there's a question that approval. Yes, definitely. Whenever you are conducting any qualitative research, where you have to seek permission, you can say from the ethics clearance committee of your institute, you can say, or a university, especially where you are involving human participants, or you can say the animals, or you can say allied things. For the simple reason, you have to give a declaration that your research will not going to harm, you can say, their well-being. I'll give you one example. There was a series on Netflix or I think Amazon that was, I think, Wazir. In that, there was an author who wrote a book, you can say, on the life of certain people. But what he did, that without the consent of those particular people, he published the actual names, the actual location, and he disclosed, you can see, the identity. Now, what happened? When the book was out, book was a big hit, but ultimately just understand the plight of the family over there. There was a lot of issues. The lady in that series that has been shown, that the lady committed suicide, the husband also died, and the two children was just only remaining. And then the stories that they came and they want to take the revenge and all that kind of a thing. So largely you have to give a declaration that okay, whatever the data you are collecting, that is only for the academic research and that will not going to hamper or harm, you can say, the well-being of the participant. Okay, and I'll come to your queries one by one. So that is why you have to give that a note. You can say you have to give that declaration that in your research, you are not declaring, you are not disclosing any kind of identity that can hamper the well-being of the participant. You have to give that in writing, especially when you are preparing a questionnaire. I'll show that. Don't worry, it's too early to ask these questions, Abhi, right? And definitely, yes, you can use AI in academic research, but you have to, uh, tell you about what are the ethics about it when I come to the ethics section, right? And then the reflexive analysis. So reflexives are generally, you can say that, okay, the behavior part, largely you can say. See, when you are conducting interviews, it's not only about the verbatims that you're noting it down. You're also observing the behavior of the people, that okay, what kind of behavior people were having, especially when they were giving the interview. Were they charged up, whether they were dull, whether they were little scared? So what kind of body language they were having, what kind of reflexes were there? So observation becomes very, very prominent. At times it happens the words are not matching with the body language. So when I talk about the qualitative research, definitely it's a very, very, you can say, a prominent, you can say, technique. But for that, I have to be expert. I have to do it very, very carefully. So let me just move ahead and then I'll take your queries. So these are the certain 9 key steps that I have to take. So the first thing is I have to identify my research questions. That's first thing. I have to determine my research approach, that okay, what kind of research approach I will be using. Third is I have to develop my research plan. I have to understand that I have to understand that okay, who will be my participant, all right, who will be the respondent for my research, and how I will going to select them. Then I have to also collect the data. So what will be the sources? What will be the technique, you can say, of collecting the data? How my data will be collected, and whether I will be doing it all alone? What will be the ways of doing it? So that plan has to be there. How I will analyze the data, which methodology I will be using, how I will going to interpret the findings, then drawing conclusion and generating insights, and finally communicating the results. So this is largely, you can say, see, when I talk about, I think this is a very generic question, Dr. Minto. So generally, when I talk about the purposive or judgmental, at times it is used, you can say synonymously, you can say as a synonym, right? Judgment, well, I will say is when you are applying it, okay, who will be the best fit, you can say participant for my research, right? So that means you are selecting, you can say, the participant on the base of your judgment. But from where that judgment is coming, the purpose of your research is actually playing the important role. That okay, this is my research question, this is the purpose of my research, you can say. which is driving my research questions, and that is why I am going to select particular participant who will going to suffice my research purpose, right? And convenience is that okay. Convenience doesn't mean that as per the researcher's convenience. No, convenience here means keeping into the mind the research questions that I'm having. I would like to collect the data from the people, or you can say from the respondent who are the best fit for my research, right? So largely when we talk about this one, this is how. So these are largely non-random samplings, which are largely you are using in the research methodology, which is available in most of the RM books, you can say. Now, when I talk about the research paradigm, so it is largely when you talk about assumption in the values. So first, when you talk about the qualitative research is largely positivist approach, or you can say the interpretivist, you can say approach, or the radical, or the critical, and the post-structuralist. So when I talk about the observation, objectivity, or I'm talking about the systematic and detailed observation, I need to understand the cause and effect relationship. So largely, in your quantitative research, they are largely positivist in nature. The problem solving stems from science and mathematics, right? But when I want to go with the constructivist view, I want to understand what is to be human. You can say, I want to understand the human side. Okay, and then I would like to understand the significance and the meaning of people ascribed to life events. Like, for example, COVID, if I again I'll take COVID here. Now, COVID has had a different kind of, you can say, impact on different people. For some people, it was very scary. For some people, it was wonderful. Now, everybody has a different story, you can say, altogether. So that is a constructivist view, right? That is an interpretivist view. I want to interpret it. Now, the radical or the critical views that I want to desire to change the world and not to just describe it. So the world is unjust and inequality stem from the social lines or the gender identity and all those classes, sexuality, etc. So action is required and it is possible to change these injustices. So how I can do that? That is a radical. So critical pieces have been there in the research that okay, what can be done? Or what are the policies have been there? Then post structuralists, no one can stand outside tradition or discourse of their time. So that means whatever was happening that time, they follow the same thing. Now, when I talk about the research of the participant relationship, researcher is expected to be an expert and expected to be objective. Like for example, in the quantitative research, what generally we do? We propose a hypothesis. I have a research questions in my mind. On the basis of that, I do my LR. And at times, then I used to propose an hypothesis. So hypothesis have been there, and then try to test it. Though the participant in the object, participant is the object of the research, you can say. That, okay, I've collected data from so and so people, and largely you can say this is the kind of result I'm getting. But when I'm talking about the qualitative, you can say the constructivist view, intersubjective, the researcher is the listener and the interpreter of the data obtained from the participant. Now, the research is trying to discover, you can say, the truth of a situation through thinking and analysis rather than sensory observation. So, you are discussing, you are inquiring, and it requires a lot of interpretation. Now, when I talk about the radical wala part, that the research takes a normative stance. That means there are certain norms and there are certain belief system and the structures, what social structures are very, very powerful. That okay, certain things are happening in a certain way. So the relationship characterized as co-research, reciprocal, participative, empowering, or power sharing. When I talk about the post-structuralist structure, the researcher analyzes participant as subject of discourse in which the researcher is also embedded. Now, the methodology is quantitative is largely experimental, you can say, non-experimental, hypothesis-driven at times, statistical testings happen, evidence-based research, you can say. But qualitative is largely, you can say, is based on interviews, grounded theory, methodology has been there, hermeneutics has been there, or phenomenological research has been there. Phenomenology is largely based on experiences. When I talk about the radical, it is largely emancipatory action, participatory research, collaborative research, you can say critical ethnographic, critical or radical hermeneutics, critical policy analysis, and then research focus on text and written, spoken, visual, methodology for complexity and contradiction. Then when we talk about the ontology, social reality is stable. So क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च हमेशा कहती है कि जो सोशल रियलिटी वो स्टेबल होती है, एक ऑर्डर फॉर्म में होते हैं एंड मेड अप ऑफ डिस्क्रीट एंड ऑब्जर्व्ड इवनली. लेकिन क्वालिटेटिव ऐसा नहीं मानते. क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च ऑलवेज सेज दैट नो, देयर आर द रियलिटी इज वेरी डिफरेंट, right? Reality is very different. रियलिटी इज वेरी वेरी सब्जेक्टिव, आपका सच मेरे सच से बहुत अलग है, और ये सोशली बहुत डिफरेंट होता है। एंड रेडिकल आपका क्या कहता है, सोशल चेंज मस्ट बिगिन बिकॉज at the roots, and then the power is always part of practices and in the construction of different forms of knowledge. So these are certain things when you talk about. Now just moving ahead. Now, just moving ahead, the epistemology. So, knowledge is derived from sensory observation. So, largely is thought of so that people, like that is health workers, professionals, they can predict, they can explain or control events, and knowledge gained through testing and hypothesis. तो hypothesis testing कहाँ करते हैं, क्वांटिटेटिव में करते हैं। अब इन्होंने क्या बोला कि क्वालिटेटिव में क्या है आपका, नॉलेज कहाँ से आती है, ड्राइव हम करते हैं ऑब्जर्वेशन से, जो डेली ऑब्जर्वेशन होते हैं। रेडिकल अप्रोच कहती है कि नॉलेज इज सोशली कंस्ट्रक्टेड, ये कम्युनल होती हैं, कंटेक्चुअल होती हैं, सब्जेक्टिव बहुत होती हैं, और लेकिन रैशनल होती है, इमेनिसिपेटिव होती है। नॉलेज इज सोशल इन नेचर, जो पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट व्यू है। और एक्सियोलॉजी जब हम बात करते हैं, द रिसर्चर इज रिमूव्ड एंड डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम द रिसर्च। तो जनरली हमने क्वांटिटेटिव में हम बात करते हैं, तो क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च क्या कहते हैं, क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च ये कहती है कि भैया मेरा ये डेटा है, डेटा ये कह रहा है, मेरी अपनी तरफ से कुछ नहीं है। Whatever the data I have collected, I have analyzed it. So these are the results, and on the basis of this particular result, these are my findings. So आप उसमें अपना कुछ ऐड नहीं करते, आप एक एक्सप्लेनेशन करते हैं कि दिस थिंग इज हैपनिंग, जिसकी वजह से ऐसा हो रहा है, कॉज एंड इफेक्ट। तो आपका जो बिलीफ सिस्टम है यहाँ पे रिसर्चर का, आपका जो वैल्यू सिस्टम है, वो आपकी रिसर्च और रिसर्च इंटरप्रिटेशन को चेंज नहीं करता है, पहली चीज। दूसरा, जब हम बात करते हैं कॉल रिसर्च की, तो वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द रिसर्चर इज पार्ट ऑफ द रिसर्च, व्हाट हैपन, हाउ इट हैपन। तो रिसर्च वो रिफ्लेक्ट करेगी वैल्यूज को रिसर्चर की कहीं ना कहीं हद तक। द रिसर्चर एम्स टू प्रेजेंट अ बैलेंस इंटरप्रिटेशन। तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है तो क्या ये बायस होती है रिसर्च, नो। समवेयर हम अपनी वॉट एवर द इंसाइट्स वी हैव गॉट, वी ट्राई टू इंटरप्रेट इट एंड वी ट्राई टू प्रेजेंट इट एज इट इज। अब ये मेथोडोलॉजी पे डिपेंड करता है कि किस मेथोडोलॉजी को आप इस्तेमाल करते हैं। जैसे हमने बात करी फिनोमिनोलॉजी की, फिनोमिनोलॉजी बेस्ड ऑन लार्जली ऑन लिव्ड इन एक्सपीरियंसेस। तो फिनोमिनोलॉजी की जब मैं बात करूंगा, तो वहां पे एज ए रिसर्चर मैं अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं बात कर रहा हूं लिव्ड इन एक्सपीरियंसेस की, जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स के हैं। मैं उनको एज इट इज उन्हीं की लैंग्वेज में कोट कर रहा हूं कि ओके दिस इज व्हाट वाज टोल्ड टू मी एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई एम रिपोर्टिंग। This is a kind of a storytelling. That is, I'm talking about their experiences, whatever they have shared. So I'm not adding anything from my side, you can say. Then, when you talk about the research seeks to change the world through their research by drawing experiences of marginalized, disempowered groups of society. The researcher values participation, पास शेयरिंग, कि इनको लगता है कि जस्टिफाइड होना चाहिए, एक पास शेयरिंग होनी चाहिए। एंड द लास्ट, द रिसर्च इज एम्बेडेड इन द सेम डिस्कोर्स एज द रिसर्च पार्टिसिपेंट, that okay, that aims to understand how power works through the constructed discourses of participant. अब ये जैसे एग्जाम्पल यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं कि लाइक मेडिकल, लाइक यू कैन सी, यहाँ पे आपके कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स दे रखे हैं जो टाइटल है आपके, मेडिकल मास्क वर्सेस N95 रेस्पिरेटरी फॉर प्रिवेंटिंग कोविड-19 अमंग हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स, अ रैंडमाइज्ड स्टडी। अब यहाँ पे क्या आपने डेटा लिया है, डेटा लेके आपने तो कंपैरिजन किया है, प्री एंड पोस्ट स्टडी कर सकते हैं, या मान लीजिए आई वुड लाइक टू कंपेयर बिटवीन टू। लेकिन जब कंसिडर एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ होम हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स इन न्यूयॉर्क, राइट, एंड देन मूविंग अहेड, ओके, see for qualitative research we don't have, what I'll do, let me just finish my thing and then I'll take all your queries, right? So, and I'll stick to English, don't worry, right? So for qualitative research, largely we are having, you can say, the research questions, but we don't make hypothesis because that is not a quantitative study that we are doing, right? And then you can see these are certain example, that for Claudian discourse analysis of media reporting on the nurse as hero during COVID-19. Or radical is hearing the voice of Australian healthcare workers during COVID-19. So now these are certain examples you can say of the various paradigms which is in the published researches, you can say. Okay, so qual research helps to generate hypothesis. Quantitative research, yes, it you can say the qualitative research forms the basis for the quantitative research. And how does it happen? I'll tell you in the coming sessions, you can say. Now, this is somewhat you can say the quantitative research is largely objective, qualitative you can say is largely subjective. Now, this is what I've already talked about. Inquiring strategy, if I talk about, so research design is largely the plan for how you answer the research questions. So this is how you can say the various, you can say designs which is I'm having with me. Descriptive in nature, phenomenological, action research, case study, ethnography, and grounded theory, which I've already talked about. Then interpretivist and or constructivist, you can say the multiple subjective realities have been there. Critical theory, you can say multiple subjective realities. You can say people are having different experiences. Now, when I talk about the qualitative, is largely inductive in nature. That is hypothesis generating. So, if I have to generate hypothesis, that is inductive process. And when we talk about, you can say about the quantitative research is largely deductive. That means already the knowledge is existing. So now you want to understand that, okay, a large from micro to macro and macro to micro. That is how you can say that. Inductive, you can say from the basic thing, then you're going to, that is from the micro, you're going to the macro thing. Inductive, right? Specific, general to specific and specific to general. So these are certain research methods that have been there. So we want to explore something, you want to understand something, you want to discover something, and that is why I want to go for qual research. I want to understand, you can say the relationships, you can say the relationships and all that. And that is why I would like to go with it. So you can say in nutshell, we can say the quant research is objective, hypothesis test and deductive in nature. And somewhere it try to assess, you can say, and make association, examine causation, relationship and cause and effect, you can say, seeks to answer questions of what? Prevalence, you can say incidence, that okay, for example, recently I have published one research paper on quiet quitting. So if I'm saying that, okay, if employee engagement is uh, if employee engagement is high or low, does it impact, you can say, the quiet quitting intentions, you can say. So the results are that, okay, if employee engagement is low, definitely the quiet quitting will be on the higher side. While on the qualitative research we talk about, it is largely hypothesis generating and inductive in nature. We try to describe and understand and explore, you can say, and discover and generate and examine and to answer the question of why and how and what. That why such things are happening, what are the reasons for that, how does these things happen, and what that is experiences. So this is how you can say. So they basically, you can say that both the kind of research is quantitative research and the qualitative research they support. So you can say, for example, there are certain topics on which there are no studies that are existing. So can we go for the quantitative study first? No, you can't. You have to develop, you can say, certain a ground from where that ground will happen. So that is why, so when the topic is very, very novel in the sense very less research has been there, nothing is existing, we don't know anything about the phenomenon and all that. So I have to go for the qualitative first. And then I used to go for the quantification so that I can, whatever I have explored to the qualitative, can I generalize that? So then I used to make a scale. For example, I have identified certain themes, or you can say the variables, and then I used to convert it into the way with the help of certain scales, and then I used to test it on the larger audience and the participants, and then I used to make my generalization. Now, these are certain things that I've already talked about. Narrative research has been there, where I have to code the narratives. You can say phenomenology, case study, ethnography has been there, right? So these are certain qualitative research designs. So whatever suits you, you can choose that for your own self. So phenomenological studies, largely understanding the phenomena, that is largely based on experiences. Ethnography is when you want to study, you can say, about certain tribe, for example, certain culture. Grounded theories, largely when we want to understand, you can say, certain thing from the scratch, and we want to generate theories, you can say. So whatever the theories you can see, largely they are largely developed with the help of the grounded theory. Historical studies have been there, where you can say the historical data has been available, and you want to understand, like history has been there. So you want to understand certain things, you do a lot of researches about around that. Case studies, like for example, uh, who are the companies who are doing a fab job, for example, if I talk about ChatGPT or you can say the AI. So if I want to do a case study on OpenAI, for example, right? That okay. So which company started, what they did, what was the mindset, how it is moving ahead. So I want to study a particular company, you can say, or particular event or an individual, a particular case, you can say largely. And the action research largely, which has been there to solve the immediate problem, you can say, which we are facing. So these are certain, you can say, description. So you can just little bit just have a look at it. So phenomenological studies, examining human experiences through descriptions that is provided by the people which are involved, which are called as lived in experiences. The goal is very clear to describe the meaning of that experiences as a researcher that is hold for each subject. And this research is used to study the areas in which there is a little knowledge. I largely do phenomenological studies, you can say, ethnography when I want to understand and collect the data about the cultural groups. For example, I want to study a particular tribe. I want to study a particular culture, right? So you can say a systematic process of observing, detailing, describing, documenting, analyzing the life phase of particular patterns of a culture. Like for example, I want to study Hinduism. I want to study a particular culture or a religion, whatever you want to study. Grounded theory, you can say, is largely developed by two sociologists, that is Glaser and Strauss, is 1967. So you can say these are studies in which data are collected, analyzed, and then theory is developed. That is grounded in the data. So largely, the whatever the theories you can see today, they have been developed with the help of the grounded theory, with the help of grounded theory studies. Historical, identification, location, evaluation, synthesis of data from the past, that is historical data, that not only helps to discover, you can say, the events of the past, but also you can relate those events to the present and to the future. Generally, we say no, history repeats itself. And then we used to give, you can say, at times examples from the past or the history. And then we talk about the case studies. So they are in-depth examination of people, or it can be group of people. So it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. So you have might be studied, or you might have seen the IV cases, which are large enough focusing, you can say, on the Indian studies have been there, on Indian companies have been there, right? So some kind of dilemma has been there, some kind of a situation has been there. So depending on the purpose of the study, and the design is chosen accordingly. And action research, as I talked about, improving, you can say the problem that we are having, and we want to resolve that. So these are the some qualitative research method. Largely, I'm using participant observation, in-depth interviews, and the focus group, where I want to understand, I want to collect the data. Now, these are the types, forms of qualitative data which we largely do. Now, the first thing is I can prepare the field notes. I can have audio. That means I can do video recording. I can do the audio recording, but with permission, not by hiding it. You have to give a declaration that can we record. You have to seek a permission that can we record the sessions, and then transcribing it. Now, there are a lot many tools. AI tools have been there with the help of which you can transcribe. Like for example, we are having this particular session, right? So you can transcribe it. So at the end of the session, the entire, you can say, script will going to come. The transcript will going to come. And then you can, so you are having a transcription. So you have to, but you have to seek permission. Some people, they say, no, you have to note down, you can write, but you can't record anything. All right. So these are generally the different types of data. Generally, we are having. So video recordings, audio recordings have been there, field notes have been there. You're having your own diary and pen, and you are making notes and all that, and transcripts have been prepared. So what we are generally doing, so you can see this is the process. So I am conducting, I am observing, I am collecting my field notes. There is a certain protocol to it. That means I have to take a permission. I have to declare, you can say, to the ethics clearance committee. At times the permissions are required, so you have to take that. Then you have to conduct interviews. You have to, now, for example, you have got, you can say, the audio recordings permission also. The participant said, yes, you can record it. So then you transcribe it, and then finally you are doing the coding and analysis, right? And then similarly in the last, what you are doing, you are reporting the observations, whatever you had from your research. So these are certain things you can say that generally we are having. And whatever the data you're collecting, please keep a record for that, because largely at times many journals ask that, okay, whatever the data you have collected, do you have the transcripts for that? Just to understand that you are not creating a fake data, because largely many people at times do. So that is a bad practice, we should avoid it. So these are the advantages of data collection. You can say in-depth understanding, flexibility, contextualization can be done. The data is very, very rich. That is the first-hand data. It's a primary data that you are collecting. The engagement is very high. And you get so many insights, you can say, when you're interviewing and collecting the data. Multiple perspectives you are getting from the when you're interviewing, you can say the participant. And the settings are very, very naturalistic, or you can say the realistic in nature. So definitely these are certain advantages comes to me when I'm going for the quality data collection. Now, advantage disadvantages could be, so these are certain things. So lot of data, lot of information from smaller sample size. So आप ये कैसे there can be a question that how to validate that, okay, can we do the validation like in quantitative study we do na validation, content validity, criterion validity, right? Face validity and all that. So are we able to do that? So see, content validity and the criteria validity, and you can say the other kind of tests that we are generally using in quantitative, they are not applicable, you can say, to the quantitative research. But yes, face validity is still applicable, you can say. You can still use it if you want to get the questionnaire vetted, right? The questionnaire that you have prepared, or you can say the schedule or the guideline, the questionnaire that you have prepared. So you get specific insights, open-ended question has been there. There is no as such, you can say, guideline that, okay, you have to go to question one first, then two first. It all depends on that what kind of interview session you are having. At times, you might be asking some question first and then another question at the last. So it all depends that, okay, where the conversation is going. But the important part is you have to make sure that the research objectives and the research questions that you are having in mind, they are intact and they are not getting compromised, right? So you get open-ended question reveals abundant information, get reasoning behind the user's decision that why they are doing so many things. Research is flexible. It is cost effective because and helps marketing and creative teams to get the, you can say, the in-depth insights. Relies on the knowledge of the researchers. May require multiple session at times because you might not getting, you can say, the data that you're expecting in one go. At times there can be 3 sittings, 4 sittings also. So you have to visit, you can say, participant multiple times. There can be difference in opinions that may lead to different data interpretation. Data analysis is time consuming, it's not that easy. Results की हमने सॉफ्टवेयर में डाला निकल गया. And the lack of statistical representation, and that is why at times there are questions regarding the qualitative researches ki whatever the findings you are saying, how to validate it. So now it is getting accepted because quantitative we are doing, so largely that is why moving towards the mixed methodology where we are using quantitative plus qualitative. So everything is having its own, you can say, pros and cons. So phenomenology, if I talk about, so you can say it's a qualitative inquiry which is largely grounded in certain tradition of philosophy. What is that? I want to reflect, you can say, the pre-reflective human experiences. So basically, I am building it an assumption on the universal essence of anything. Ultimately depends on how the audience is experiencing it. So you can say the experience is very crucial. So the phenomenologic inquiry is largely, you can say, is adopted when I want to explore, you can say, the unique meaning to structure of any educational experience or lived in phenomena. Now, for example, if I talk to you people, I want to understand that, okay, what was your experience during COVID, or what was your experience when Operation Sindoor was happening and there was strikes that were happening between India and Pakistan. So what was happening and what was going in your mind? What was that experience? And especially if I want to take the interview, especially of the armed forces who were involved, you can say, in the particular process. So if I want to really interview them, what was their experience? Are you getting my point? So their phenomenology actually gave me better insights. So, okay, just I'll take the question at one go. So largely what I can do, you can record and you can analyze the beliefs and the feelings and the perceptions. and of the audience they're looking at, and only the audience views matter. Here, the researchers' views will not going to matter. So your experiences are becoming very, very important here. And largely, the researcher's personal assumption, perception doesn't matter and they're irrelevant. And moreover, it provides you in-depth understanding of the audience thoughts and perception. And the phenomena you're researching, it goes deeper rather than broad. So largely, I'm having many papers which I have published on this phenomenology. So I'll share that with you for the better understanding. So there are certain questions. Let me just see. Let me just finish my things because these are certain questions which are out of whatever I'm discussing. So I'll take care of that in the coming session also, right? I'll take care of that, don't worry. So finding the lived-in experience of phenomena in question depends on your interpretation and analysis. So here, researcher is not putting anything from their own side. So whatever the data they have got, they are just reporting that. So whatever my feeling is there about a particular aspect, it hardly matters. My personal assumption and perception doesn't matter. Now, who founded it? Oh, it was founded by Edmund Husserl and Alexander Fender at the beginning of the 20th century. So this is a certain YouTube links. So you will going to just find it and you can just check it out. So when you talk about the contributions, you can say of this phenomenology and ontology of social phenomena were also employed in discussions by social and political philosophy, and that is in the creation of Scheller of the sociology of knowledge, right? So that is the awareness and understanding of others' minds, what kind of motives they're having, what kind of collective intentionality they're having. So these are various forms you can say of social life and the nature of social objects. So you can say these are the phenomenological history. So I'm not going into that detail this point of time. So Sartre, Merleau-Ponty, Proust, Hustler, and Heidegger. So they have, you can say this is how it happened. So 1940, in 1913, the Hustler, you can say, introduced phenomenology as the science of the essence of conscious, right? And when we move ahead, so in the 27, in being and time, we interpret our actions and meanings in the world by looking at our relations to the world. So my relation to the world is very different than yours. Then believed phenomenology include deliberation, reflection, as noted in being and nothingness. You can say emphasizing freedom of choice. And then phenomenology of perception showcase various phenomenology placing importance of human interaction and experiences. So this is what the Hustler and the Heidegger they have talked about. So epistemological, ontological, person living in the world of objects, that is description that the person exists as being in and the world. Historical, essences are shared and the cultural practice and the histories are shared. Bracketing, you can say, afford access to true knowledge, and cultural interpretation grounds any knowing. So purpose, that is I want to understand, you can say, the gain insight into the experiences and feeling of specific audience. Like for example, I conducted research, whistleblowing intentions of Indian nurses. So my target was to interview nurses in India only and to understand their whistleblowing phenomena, for example, whistleblowing intentions largely, you can say. And I want to draw the conclusion about the phenomena that why they want to, what motivates. So these are the two my research questions. What motivates the nurses to blow the whistle? What motivates them to not to blow the whistle? So these are my two guiding questions that help me to conduct my research. And definitely it helped me to gain lot of insights, generate awareness, and definitely a lot of research as is happening. And my research is largely on this. Now, phenomenology research, you have to focus on audience interpretation. Lack of, and the researcher's bias has to, or prior influence has to be removed. There should not be any kind of bias. Descriptive emphasis on research insight, describing the phenomena through the eyes of the audience as comprehensively as possible. I'll show you my papers, you will understand it better. And then connecting objectivity with the lived experiences. Now, these are types of phenomenological research design that is existential, focus on understanding of the audience's experience through their perspective, right? Now, hermeneutics talks about creating meaning from the experience through audience perspective. And third is transcendental, that is focusing on how the phenomena appears in one consciousness on a broader scientific scale. Now, it all depends on what perspective you would like to take in the phenomenology itself. So, this is the phenomena, the process. You have to identify, determine if research benefits phenomenological research approach, whether phenomena to study, identify phenomena you want to study, describe it, identify the specific research assumptions of phenomenology, collect data using in-depth interviews, analyze, generate themes, write textual and structural description of the phenomena, and then write a composite description, finding common themes from all the participants, and then interpreting and reporting the findings. Now, this is the approach that we are largely using it, inductive and deductive. So I can use both the inductive and deductive reasoning in my research at the same time. That is possible. So bottom-up approach. So I can develop theories with the help of inductive research. You can inductive method approach. You can say used in exploratory studies, flexible and adaptable to new findings, relies more on qualitative analysis. And when I talk about deductive, so it's largely top-down approach. I already know a lot many things. I want to test theories through observation. I am using confirmatory studies. I'm giving citations and through LR, structured and systematic, and relies more on quantitative. Now, this is what it goes. Specific observation you're having, pattern recognition is happening, and then we go to the general conclusion. But whereas on the other side, there is an existing theory, you formulate hypothesis, you collect data, you analyze data, and finally you accept or reject it. So this is how you generally go observation. That is almost similar for the almost all the qualitative studies that I can go for observation, I can go for interview, I can go for focus group, I can record conversation, I can analyze personal text and observations. And then limitations are there definitely because the sample size is very small. So as per the past researches, the sample size from 2 to 25 is sufficient, you can say, for the phenomenological studies. But how to decide that, okay, where we need to stop interval? So generally the data saturation happens. So when the data saturation is happening, we can stop the interviews. That is the basically you can say the rule. So researcher bias is difficult because somewhat if you are a researcher, definitely some kind of bias is there. You cannot completely remove it. But yes, it has to contaminate, it can contaminate your outcome. So you need to hold it back. Then you're largely dependent on audience experiences. So it is accuracy and dependency entirely depend on how well the audience can express those experiences. And at times, the results are difficult to summarize and present due to its qualitative nature. And definitely, yes, it is time consuming, right? And there are certain parameters due to which we are at times using it. All right. There are certain parameters on the basis of which I am using that. Okay, whatever the questionnaire I am using, that means there are certain standards, that is 32 item consolidated criteria for reporting qualitative studies or the standards for reporting qualitative research. So you need to little bit work on it. All right. So particular things that has to be there. So I shared that document at the later stage. And this is how I'm going it so that I can understand it. So this is all about the IP a little bit. And these are the features. So commonly sample size of 4 to 15 is at times sufficient. These are certain citation that is largely done by the Smith, you can say. Smith and Osborne, they are very well known for the qualitatives, especially if we talk about the IPA. Largely this methodology is being used in health sciences. And I have used this study for the management field of studies. And I think apart from that, after my studies, many other my known researchers have been there where they have used, you can say, IP in the academic or the higher education also, and in other areas also. So sample selection becomes very, very critical for the study, you can say. So this is how generally you can say the kind of questions that can come. So what is the relationship between delusions and personal goals? How do people in genetic conditions view changing medical technologies? How does women's sense of identity change during transition to motherhood? So these are certain questions that can help me to, you can say, take my research, you can say, especially when I talk about the phenomenology. How does being HIV impact on personal relationship? Now, these are certain which are related to, you can say, phenomenology. Now, this is the descriptive terminology and interpretative. So, to describe a lived-in experience without attempting to give meaning to it, while interpretative is to reveal and interpret implicit meaning in a lived-in experiences. So, it all depends whether you are using hermeneutics into it or radiography. So, that is theory of interpretation, and the radiography is largely focusing, you can say, on the individual. So, this is what largely we are doing. So thorough and the systematic depth of analysis we are taking, and then we are moving ahead. So this is largely the you can steps which we had largely used. These are 7 steps of IP data analysis, reading and rereading. You can say the transcripts, initial noting, then developing emergent themes, searching for connection across and moving to the next case and looking for patterns across cases and taking interpretation to deeper levels. So this is all about it. So now moving ahead. So how, okay, there are certain questions, which AI tool will be effective transcription? So there are lot many tools have been there. All right, I'll show you that. Like for example, lot many, you can say, like Zoom is there, for example. So Zoom is also already having, you can say, this feature that you can record the meeting and you can transcribe it. So this is one thing that you can use. There is one more tool, but for that you have to integrate it when you are, you can say, conducting the online interviews. Now there is one small another thing that I would like to just take it so that I can just finish it. So, which is an important part. Let me just quickly just wind it up. So how AI in qualitative research we are using? So definitely earlier I have to make notes and all that. So somewhere I'm taking, you can say, the help of AI, you can say, or you can say the NLP and the pattern recognition to analyze unstructured data. So it is helpful in automating, you can say, transcription, identifying themes and patterns, performing sentiment analysis. And I'll show you with the help of ChatGPT, for example, or any AI tool. So I use majorly ChatGPT for your reference here so that you can understand it better. So enhanced impact on research is that accuracy has improvised, efficiency has become better, the time and effort has become better, has reduced. Now benefits are automation and automated, you can say, faster transcription, data processing. Coding becomes very easy and thematic analysis happens very fast and quickly. I can categorize and tax data automatically. Accuracy, consistency is becoming better. Sentiment and emotion analysis I can do at a click. And scalability and speed is also very high because I can analyze large volumes of data very quickly. So there are a lot many, you can say, qualitative data analysis tools also, which are having now AI inbuilt into it. Like for example, the tools and software. So there are a lot many tools which I'm using. You can say for analyzing, interpreting the qualitative data, right? Where I can analyze text, I can analyze audio, video, images, and data types that shed light on human experiences, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors which are referred. And then what I can use tools for organizing my data, I can use for tagging and coding. I can use it for data retrieval. I can use it for data visualization. I can use it for collaboration with the other researchers and they can work on the similar. That means there is a facilitative teamwork which is now allowed on various tools which are available. And then I can put a query and I can run it, and definitely I can get a specific information that I'm looking at. I can do annotation and memos I can prepare, and then I can export the data and I can report it. I can do the thematic analysis. I can do cross-referencing, right? Especially like for LR tools are there, for example, like we use Mendeley, for example, right? So now AI is a part of very much lot many research tools. You can say whatever we are doing nowadays. But like for example, Otter AI, this is the first thing. So whenever you are doing any meeting with any person, so what you can do, you can just log in with the Otter AI and you can record that meeting with it. So once that meeting is over, it will going to tell you that, okay, this is a real-time transcription and the note taking with the speaker identification. So largely when you want to go for interviews and lectures, you can use this. So Otter AI, I have used it is very well. Rev is there, high accuracy and support. So these are other platforms which you can use, but Otter AI works very well. And these are the certain AI tools for data analysis and coding. So whatever I can do with this, so these are also AI enabled features they are having. Max QAD is there. NVivo, which is very popular. You might have heard the name of this particular tool. Atlas TI, NVivo, right? So these are also auto coding. So we can do all these particular things, you can say, especially with the help of these particular tools. And then these are certain other tools, that is monkey learn. Lexicalytics has been there, so we can identify tones and emotion and opinions within qualitative responsive. Then IBM Watson NLP is there. I can use AI model for text and speech analysis. This is possible. Like for example, in NVivo and even in the chat GPT in the paid version especially, you can upload, you can say a particular file and you can get it analyzed. So that is possible. And then these are certain other AI for pattern recognition, thematic analysis. Reduce is one tool, Rapid Miner, Quicos is one. So it all depends that which tool you are more comfortable with, right? So I'm not will say that okay, I will going to recommend a particular tool. It all depends on your comfort level. But I'm telling you that these are certain AI tools that you can use for your qual research. And like H20 and the NIME analytics platform, these are the predictive analytics and the hypothesis generation. Orange data mining that you can use for the qualitative data sets, that is possible. And but there are certain ethical consideration that is most important. Data privacy and confidentiality. So you have to protect the sensitive data when, especially because quality data is very, very sensitive, because you cannot disclose, you can say, the identity of the you can say participant. And then ensuring diversity in AI models, and then maintaining human oversight. See, AI is your assistant, AI is not your replacement. You have to understand that. So you don't think that, okay, NVivo, I am using NVivo or I am using any particular tool. So I'll put the data. And once I put the data, the analysis will be automatically done. No, it will not be done. It will be a gigo, garbage in and garbage out. So whatever you're putting and feeding into it, it will definitely going to give some input. But is that input valuable? Is that input actually correct? That you have to take care of that. So maintaining human oversight is very, very essential. So you please not to over rely on AI for any nuanced data interpretation. That is a work that has to be done only and only by the researcher. So I can do this AI-driven hypothesis generation. I can do it. I can do real-time sentiment analysis and feedback. I can do visualize complex qualitative data, that is AI-enabled visual storytelling for pattern identification. I can do that. This is the future trends in AI and the call research. So it sounds very fancy, but there's a lot of work that has to be done. So these are certain limitations. AI struggles. See, there are certain words which means a lot. So cultural nuances and the cultural understanding, AI is not very good with it, because that kind of intelligence only humans are having, right? That what people want to say and what and why they want to say that. Over reliance on automation is a risky affair, so please avoid that. Need for continuous improvement. So AI model also require refinement. So over reliance is a big no. So what you can do? Combine AI and human expertise that AI should assist, not replace human judgment. Ensuring high quality input data for accurate AI analysis. That means you have to verify the data. You have to verify the input and the output both. You have to regular model evaluation has to be done. That is validating AI generated insight, because it gives anything nuisance. At times, if I'm giving so whatever the kind of prompt you're giving, you might not be getting the right kind of output. So summary in totality, we can say AI definitely can help you to enhance qualitative research. It can help to improve your accuracy and speed and consistency. So AI tools are valuable, but human oversight always remains critical, right? So that becomes very, very essential. So this is all from my side for today. So now I'll take your questions, which you people are having. I think I've talked about AI
So,
already. Data saturation means when I am getting the similar kind of responses when I'm interviewing the participants. That is data saturation. So these are very basic things. Okay, then. Okay, cross-sectional studies are largely been, you can say, used in quantitative, not in qualitative, right? Cross-sectional studies we are not using largely for the qualitative. So when we are talking about the qualitative studies, largely we are going for the observational, you can say, on all these particular things, right? Then AI other than ChatGPT, yes, there are not many. You can use Gemini, you can use Copilot, whatever that you want to use, right? It all depends. How can AI identify hidden emotions? It can only identify, it can only give an indication. That is why AI is saying AI can give you lot many things. But you have to identify as a researcher that whatever they have analyzed, is it correct or not? Because interviews you have conducted, no? AI has not conducted interviews, you have conducted as an interview. Okay, minimum number, I think it depends. So largely it can be from two. They see there are case studies on one participant also, two also. It all depends on what kind of topic you're working. Yes, for Hindi language, largely see these are English, you can say largely they understand better, but you can convert it in case you want. Chat GPT for the free version. I'm using free version and it works very well. Right? So I need not to give all these things. Okay. In some software, there are certain regional languages are available, but I think largely English is, you can say, which has been there, which you all can utilize it. See, the sampling that best works is at times for me is purposive sampling. Purposive sampling, and you can say the judgmenting sampling, you can say, or snowball at times, depending, again, I said, depending upon the kind of research that you are doing. Okay, the issue with the AI transcript is that they don't work for regional languages. I'm doing Kannada. For that, you have to actually work with English. Okay, triangulation, I'll come. Triangulation in when you are using the different. Say triangulation is at various levels. The triangulation can be at the methodology level. It can be at the data level. It can be at the various other levels. I talk about triangulation in the next session, please. Right? So what is the minimum maximum of participant in a qualitative? So as I told you, depends upon the data saturation and kab hota hai. That is also one thing. And moreover, 2 to 25, it can be more also depending upon on the type of the research topic you are doing. Conduct focus group discussion, face-to-face interviews in a formal way. Definitely you need to conduct the interviews properly. Then only you can get the better insights. No? Otherwise, you won't be able to get it. Yes, I will be talking about the data network call studies. Yes, I will be taking it. So largely I will be using AI, that is, I will be using ChatGPT, right? So how to calculate sample size? Largely, there are lot of literature which is available to talk about that. For example, if you want to go for phenomenological studies, for example, so it says that okay, the sample size from 2 to 25 is sufficient. But there's a possibility, like for example, for nurses, I interviewed only 16. Why? Because the data saturation start happening when I reach the 16th level. So I was getting the similar kind of, you can say, responses again and again. So then I stopped it because no new information was getting added to my data. So I stopped. That is data saturation. See, whatever the terms I'm using, please just a little bit read about it, data saturation, right? And when talk about this, so it will be a little bit easier. Uh, IPM, I already talked about. How do journals assess quality and trustworthiness? I am having my publications B category journals and even in the very high quality journals. Recently, I have published one paper. So they're accepting it. It all depends that, okay, what kind of work you are doing. Okay, you are saying ChatGPT is giving me false. Yes, it is. See, references for reference, you have to check the references, right? You cannot. That is what I said, that human insight is important, right? So, any references, ground theory by Grosser? Yes. Now, I'll just give you a quick, you can say, a thing. Yep. So here I'm doing. So if I'm going, okay, can you suggest? Now just see what kind of prompt I'm giving, and with this I will wind up. Can you suggest some topics which are suitable for call research in HR domain, for example? Now see what kind of I have given this. Now see what it is giving. I've talked about all these things. These can be explored using interviews, focus groups, ethnography. Now I have to now see these are certain things they are giving me. Employee experience or well-being, talent management and career development. Now see if I want to go with this. Career aspiration of Gen Z in employee startups. Now I am picking up. This is compelling and timely topic. Now, now see, this is something which is giving a comparative qualitative study of startups and established firms in India. Can I do that? Yes, I can do that. But is it possible? Now, this could be the research objectives which I am trying to make. These could be the research questions. Can you see this? To explore how Gen Z and all that compare. But largely, if you want to, these are possible research objective. But can I do it with the help of qualitative? Somewhat? No. Can I do this? Yes. Research questions. Now, this I can take these two or three questions, and that can be, you can say the base for my research. That okay, I want to study what motivates Gen Z regarding their career choices. Now, it is giving me something, but I need not to. I want to understand. Now, they are giving the approach also. Okay, semi structure. They are telling me 10 to 15. But is it that's it? No. It can be more also. If I'm getting a new information, I have to continue with my interviews. Okay, which kind of sampling? Purposive sampling can be there. Okay, who are Gen Z? Born between 1997 to 2012. Okay, what are the possible themes? Now, AI is saying these are possible themes. Now, as a researcher, please make sure you're not falling for it. Whatever your data says, on basis of that, you have to identify your themes. There is a possibility that this could emerge, may not emerge. Now, this is from my side. Now, any questions? If we can just open, you can say any questions, whatever I have discussed right now. Yes, plagiarism at times matter because there in the, for example, in Turnitin, there is a feature which can easily check, easily you can say take, you can say AI generated content. So you can have an initial outline, but see, you have to rephrase it in your own language. So see, AI can guide you, but not let AI. If AI has to do everything, then for what reason you are doing your research? As simple as that, right? So any other questions so that we can, otherwise we'll, yes, Antara?
Yeah, so thank you so much. I think thank you so much, sir, for a very informative session. You have just started and set the context for this workshop, and today is the only first day. So please have the patience. We have more 6 more days. So
Yes.
you will, will definitely
Okay, I'll
clarify
just
your
add
all
one
the
thing. I
queries.
think there are so many questions. See, there are a lot many other sessions also, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
there are many questions that will be addressed, you can say, in the other
Mm,
sessions. These are some
yeah, yeah.
earlier questions. By the time I will finish now, you won't have any question, don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you,
thanks
sir.
to all the
Thank you, everyone,
participants. Very
and see you
patientful
tomorrow.
listening. Thank you. See you tomorrow. All. Good night.